Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Techno training course. This course is the Automotive Electrical Test Procedures course. It covers quite a few areas that are vitally important to understand and to know within the automotive electrical game. It's split up into modules. We have 7 modules coming your way after this one. The first module, module 1, is charge. In some materials, the bond of the outside electrons can be quite weak. Flow is the electrons flowing in the circuit. Current can only flow if we have a closed circuit. One of these Locktronic rigs would be really useful, but of course it's not really something that most garages are going to have, and whilst we use them in the training school, it simply isn't. So therefore, what setting do we need on our voltmeter? Well, that's obvious. DC volts generally for most automotive testing. There are a few things that we might tell you of our resistance. We will have some warnings about resistance testing a little bit later on. 10 millivolts per amp. So in other words, if you're showing on the screen 10 millivolts, you know you have it in its working state. But they are useful for proving that a bulb has got continuity, that a fuse is intact, and so on. Well, of course, the switch has got to be turned on. So in other words, current can flow around our circuit. So let's ask. That's ideal settings. But to reinstating the circuit so it is working, and now measure the battery voltage positive to positive. How many millivolts have you got? The current in the circuit. Well, effectively we're slowing down the current 3 times rather than just once. So now the resistance, and there's 0 volts here, so each bulb should get a full 12 volts. And then we have a second part of the circuit, which is our load portion of the circuit, switch in the control circuit, to see if we're losing voltage at the switch itself. And we can test the positive. So just here, what have we got? Well, this is the index or key for our wiring diagram. We've got our component numbers down there showing us categorically that this has come from the previous bit we were looking at. So why do we use this method of linking the sensors at the top or outputs at the bottom? It may just be the way it goes. For instance, here's a whole volts to the relay, and once the relay is turned on, it allows power through this point here through to. We've already mentioned gel acid batteries, and these are quite useful for installation where room is tight. There are some clever chargers out there now that are reckoned to be able to overcome the sulfating process. In general, the car side of the battery monitor, the electrons will still flow through the battery monitor, and the monitoring we call the stator. By supplying a voltage into the windings, these windings become electromagnets in a car. Well, ultimately we've got to include a control system, and we have to include a mechanical. Additionally, we can test from terminal 50 to ground, which is our signal wire to enable our solenoid.